Network discovery is up next, number 7. So we're at 824. We might be able to get one or two more in. Let's see what else we get. This should be a pretty easy one if we're just doing Nmap scans. What we're doing is we're waiting for it to, let me move this in the center. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. We'll let this thing start up. It should be here in a few more seconds, and then we'll start doing scans. And I imagine it's going to be just basic Nmap scans, whatever. So let's do some stuff. So it wants us to scan for open ports, especially 22 and 80. So we could choose those specifically if we wanted to, like this. But I do know those are included by default in Nmap scan. So instead, we can just type the IP in here, let it do its thing. It should be pretty quick. All right, so let's see what else we're doing here. We need to find, all right, so let's see what it's asking before I go through and skipping steps like I did earlier. So we want to scan for these done, explore what's behind those ports. Maybe it's vulnerable web server, exploit the exposed service, find a way in, and kick out the bad bunnies from the QA server. Okay, so I guess we are doing some hands-on stuff, so maybe this will be fun. Surprise. So we have port 22, port 80 open. So again, let's circle back and think about, before we take actions, let's think about what we can do to meet our objective here. So let's start with SSH. So port 22 is SSH, is a secure protocol. It can be either password protected or certificate protected. In most cases, we're not going to be able to brute force the certificate, but we may be able to guess a password. There are tools like Hydra that allow us to do this. Metasploit can also do this, but the chances of guessing a password, depending on the situation, could be pretty good. Like we could check like defaults like admin, user, things like that. Be pretty quick, might be able to get in. Then we have 80, which is HTTP. We'll have to explore, see if we can find a vulnerability that we can exploit to get in onto the server. So the goal is to get a foothold onto the server. So these are two different methods or two different routes that we could take here. I would say maybe do some quick guessing with SSH. If that doesn't work out, then we switch and then we try to get through the web service. In most cases, because this is CTF, the route is typically through the web server. You get a web shell, you expand your access, escalate privileges, call it a day. So we'll see. Let's go ahead and let me copy this because I don't want to type it in again. So we're going to do SSH, then we're going to say admin. I don't know what type of host it is, so we'll try root first. And then, yes, permission denied. So it says we are not on the list of known hosts. That means it won't accept us. So I would say we can try with a different user real quick. But I think that means no bueno, permission denied. Okay, so basically we may have to find another way in, which is okay, because we know there is a web service running. So let's hope there's something we can take advantage of. HTTP. Do this. All right, so this one may have some of the fun stuff here, which is awesome. All right, so we'll take a peek at this and we'll approach it from the perspective of a web application pen tester currently. Okay, so we see TBFCQA pwned by HopSec. eSmith's takeover, QA server answers HopSec now. Console is sealed with a locking key. Only TBFC can pick a scattered 3 fragments of the passphrase across your own chaos. Find them, stitch the words together, speak them to the gate, take your box back if you can. King Malhair. All right. So you can click around, see if there's anything in here. So this is where the keys go. We could look in here to see if there's anything in here that we can take advantage of at all. So here's the name of the host. We don't really see much in here. I'm just glossing through it real quick. Looking. All right. My girlfriend was texting me, even though she's in the next room, and telling me my cousin's place is on some TV show. I have no clue what she's talking about. Who knows? Okay. So, along with practical tasks today, you'll find 3 keys. Keep note of them since you will need them later for the web app. Okay. Cool. So, simple port scan, command top 1000. This means that you can now access the SSH if you know the password or open the website. Scan the whole range. Okay, so we do need a rescan. So it looks like there are other opportunities here besides what we did. So yeah, I'm glad they're teaching everyone the fun little trick. It took me forever to, not forever, it took me a little while to identify to use the -b dash. And it's just quick shorthand to scan all the ports available. And this isn't both UDP and TCP. This is just TCP. You have to provide an additional flag to do UDP. But I will say there's not a lot of stuff on UDP that people target. So SNMP is a good one. And there are like a handful of a few other ones, but excuse me. Yeah, SMTP, SNMP, not TP. SNMP is probably one of the better ones on there. But what are you going to do? And UDP is such a pain to scan too, because it takes so long. You have to wait for responses back. And it just takes a while. TCP is just way faster. And because I'm impatient, I like to hit the space bar to see when this thing is going to finish up. It's going to take some time. Looks like we're supposed to be scanning with the banner as well. So we can add that real quick. We'll start this over. Why not? While that, we'll talk a little bit. No biggie. So it looks like we should have gotten a few things here. We can talk about what we got. So we have OpenSSH. So here's the version. So there are versions of SSH that have been broken, and there are private keys that are available. You can just utilize to open it. I'm not sure if this is one of them. I forget which they are. We also have this VS FTPD service. That's interesting. Then we have this other service, TBFC, also that we could access. And so these are on really high ranges. So we wouldn't have gotten these if we did a normal scan, because these aren't common ports. But what we're going to end up doing is interrogating. This is your big fun word today. If you had to learn one new word, it's interrogating the services to see what's on there. So what we'll do is I'm going to go ahead and do Control-Shift-T to get me a new tab. And while that's running, we'll just say we went through that. I want to go ahead and do FTP and connect to this the service here. So we got 10.66.175.188. Okay. And then we should have to provide a port with a colon. Nope, it's just a space. So 21212. And so one of the tricks here is that sometimes, and it's not as common anymore unless it's on like a very odd type of thing, like maybe a phone or something like that, where anonymous isn't going to be available. But this is another one where you can password guess, admin, user. There are a lot of these still running with default credentials on them, so they are there. What we want to do, so FTP is file transport protocol, so we won't be able to actually execute stuff more than likely on the system, but we can send and pull files on this host potentially, just depending on the type of access we have. It may be that we don't have a ton of access, but we'll see. So there is a key here, so we can say mget is what we want. Mget tb, there we go. Here comes the directory listing cd tb. Why is... I was curious why it wasn't just pulling this down. I thought this was a file. It is a file. Why are we not getting pulled? All right, there we go. That pulled it down. I was tab completing and it wasn't tab completing. I don't know why. But we were able to pull that down. ls. So we can try navigating here and seeing what's going on, but it looks like we're kind of stuck here in this directory. We could say something like, I wonder if cat's available. I don't think so. Yeah, it's not available. There may be another variation of that, perhaps. Probably not type, but that's okay. So we'll just see what we have here. So it's telling us to move on. So we'll go ahead and move on. We'll say bye, see ya, ls, cat. So we have our first key here. Great. All right, next one is, so let's move on to the custom app. Since it's not a well-known service, you won't know how to access it. Luckily, you can use netcat. So netcat is a good way to interrogate services in case you don't know, especially if you don't know what they are. So typically we can at least get a response and kind of start gathering what they are. But our Nmap scan is also going to give us a little bit. So it's actually where it's responding to a connection, where it's telling you can run help. So I expect that we'll, at a minimum, be able to do that. So again, we want to do nc. So netcat is a really fun classic utility, in case you didn't know. Really, really fun utility. And now we just need to make sure we are interrogating, I'm going to use that word for you again, the correct port. And we're good. So we do have the help message. We see some kind of, I think this is a custom app, but we can do help to figure out what we're doing. And we can say get key. And we got our key here. So we can just capture that and put it into a log. It's going to have us do UDP ports too. Fun. All right, so we're going to control shift to get out of this. And I'm going to say vi key 2. I didn't take the V. Vi key 2. Do that, hit insert, control shift V. And we'll write that. So now we have both 2 keys. We still need one more. So let's go ahead and get the last key here. Golly, I hope it doesn't do all the ports. We're not going to sit here and let it do all the ports. All right, so we'll do 53. I'll be strategic with how we do it here. UDP can take a really, really incredibly long time to run. So ain't nobody got time for that. Not us anyways. So we have it. So now let's use dig. Dig is a good way to do stuff, to be able to get what we want. Related to DNS more than anything, right? So dig is DNS, and we're getting the different types of information from this. Copy, we'll go ahead and paste this in here. All right, and then we'll go ahead and paste it. And we get the key. All right, great. So now we just need to combine all these keys. Let me get this out of the way. Copy. Is this a notepad? Where is just a notepad? Is there not just a notepad? What's this? Give me a mouse pad or something. Oh, Sublime. Nope, good enough. All right, here we go. So here's one key. Let's get our other keys. Cat TB. And then cat key 2. So let's go ahead and I'm going to just grab them all with one sweep. And we'll put them in here. So we do need to do them in order. For my sanity, we'll put them in order. And then I'm going to do like this. I'm going to leave it there because I'm always afraid of jacking stuff up. So this is key 1. This is key 2. I'm scarred from my days of malware analysis where I don't want to redo 50 hours of work. Not 50 hours, but hours of work. All right, so here we go. Oh, that's where we want it. So we need to go in here. We're going to drop the key in, unlock, go to terminal. All right, we got our admin session. First flag part, there's nothing more we can see on the FTP server, so did we already do all this? We already did all this. Okay. So now that we have all the flags, we go ahead and do that. Is this... Okay, so we are where we are supposed to be. And it wants us to basically start interrogating the host, right? So just for your awareness, we have essentially unlocked the system, and what we have is called a web shell. So we don't have a true shell on the victim host. Well, the host that was victim in this attack, whatever this is. So we need to go from a web system probably, or a web shell to, and I say probably because maybe that's not intended here either, but typically you would move from this web shell to a proper shell, just because it's more responsive. There's a lot more advantages to having a true shell, and that's typically kind of the progression of the attack. So we'll go through what it's asking us to do here. So what we're essentially doing is looking for connections on the host and what types of processes are connected to it. So TCP, it's listening, we have the port and the IP address. So with root permissions, you can also view the process column. However, for now, let's focus on 3306. So this one here. So port 151 is listening, which is the default MySQL database port. Usually databases require a password for remote clients, but allow unauthenticated logins from the local host. Since you are already inside the host, let's see the database content using MySQL program. So we're actually kind of doing, I mean, this isn't anything new to me, but we are kind of diving in. So you see that. So if we try to connect to it, we wouldn't be able to. But we also didn't see it in our port scan. So it must have either a firewall in front of it, or it's only allowing you to connect to it via local host, meaning you have to be on that host to run the command. So pretty interesting. And here we go. So we have some additional stuff we want to do. So we could say show databases maybe. There we go. And then use tbfcqa01. And then show tables. There we go. Select star. from flags. That's what we wanted. Jeez. All right, there we go. So now we have our first flag. So that's kind of fun. How did not copy all of that? What evo message do you see at the top of the website? Oh. Okay. So this belongs here. And we need to go back and answer some of these questions here. I forget. What was it? It was 3306. Let's answer some of these questions before I forget. 3306, what is the third part of the key? We have that over here. What is the second part? What is the first part? Sorry, just backtracking a little bit. I got carried away. We're missing. There we go. And then what evo message do you see? I don't remember. Do you? Is there? Maybe I can sign out because I don't remember. Does anyone remember what was on the page? Let's go. Lead page. Eastmas takeover, maybe? Eastmas takeover. Well, let's try that. Nope. Maybe it's this one. There we go. All right, that was another easy one. That one was marked easy. I mean, it was pretty easy for me, but I don't think it would have been easy for a lot of people. Maybe because it was all guided. They consider that one easy.